You know that feeling, that specific kind of dread? The one where you spend 3 days writing a LinkedIn post for your CEO. You've checked the tone, you've aligned it with the Q3 strategy, you've maybe even argued with the legal team about one word.
Right.
And then you finally hit publish. You lean back, you're waiting for the magic.
Yeah.
And you just get crickets. Absolute silence.
The whole tree falls in the forest scenario.
Exactly. Maybe the HR manager likes it, maybe your mom, but your sales team, they're still just banging their heads against the wall, making cold calls to people who have no idea who your company is. It feels like you're just shouting into a void.
Well, that's the invisible problem.
Yeah.
And it's not just a feeling, you know?
Yeah.
The data we're looking at shows that this is exactly where most B2B companies are. They're stuck.
Creating content nobody sees to support sales calls nobody answers.
Precisely.
But we're not here to just, dwell on the sadness of low engagement. We're here to fix it. Welcome to the deep dive.
Today we're synthesizing the grand finale of this Invisible to Inevitable series. And it's a big stack of material, articles, case studies, all of it.
And it claims you can just fundamentally flip this entire dynamic.
It's a huge promise. The source material argues that you can go from being invisible to becoming, well, inevitable.
Inevitable. I like that word. It's powerful.
It is. And the way they define it is a state where your target accounts, they know who you are, they know what you stand for, why they need you, all before sales ever even picks up the phone.
So we're moving from hoping for luck to actually building infrastructure.
That's the goal.
And the methodology we're looking at today involves something called story arcs and sequence thought leader ads.
And we have a case study from a company, Mutiny, that apparently proves this works.
Right, to the tune of a 3x efficiency boost, which is, that's wild.
That Mutiny case study is really the anchor for this whole thing. We'll get into the details, but the real mission here, for you listening, is to escape what they call vanity metrics.
Okay, so define that for me. Vanity metrics. We're talking likes, comments, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Likes, shares, impressions. The stuff that makes you feel good but doesn't actually, pay the bills. Yeah. The sources are pushing for a completely different metric. Account penetration?
Account penetration. That sounds a little aggressive.
It's precise. It's not about going viral. It's about getting specific decision makers, the people who actually sign the checks, to consume a very specific narrative in a specific order.
Okay, so it's less about did we get 1 million views and more about did the CFO at Microsoft see episode 4 of our story?
That is the fundamental shift, yes.
Before we dig into the how, let's just recap for anyone who hasn't been following along. Why is this so necessary right now? What is this double bind the sources keep mentioning?
It's a double bind because marketers are just getting squeezed from both sides. First, organic reach on LinkedIn. If you've been on the platform, you've felt this.
Oh yeah, the free ride is over.
It's completely over. Reach is down something like 64% from its peak. But the second part of the squeeze is maybe even worse.
Which is what?
We spend all this money on our corporate company pages, right? The official logo. But the data shows those pages get maybe 1 or 2% of the real estate in the feed. The algorithm just suppresses them.
Because nobody wants to have a conversation with a logo.
Exactly. And that leads to the trust gap. The sources point out that buyers trust individuals, actual people, 3 times more than they trust a corporate brand. So if your whole strategy is your company page, you're fighting the algorithm and human psychology.
You're posting content no one sees from a profile nobody trusts. That's the trap.
That's the invisible trap. So the methodology here, it proposes a way out. It's based on 2 big pillars.
Okay, let's break those down. The first one is story arcs. This isn't just about posting good stuff, is it?
No, not at all. And this is where a lot of companies get it wrong. Most executives are just doing what you call random acts of content.
Right. Monday it's about culture, Wednesday it's a product feature, Friday it's a photo of their dog.
It's noise. It's just disjointed. A story arc, specifically the 7-episode arc they talk about, is all about structure. You treat it like a Netflix series.
Walk me through the episodes then. What's the flow?
It's a logical argument. Episode 1 defines the problem the buyer has. Episode 2 explains the mechanism, the way you solve it, not your product. Then episode 3 offers proof. It builds step by step.
So you're taking the buyer on a journey. You're not just screaming, buy now at them.
Right. But here's the catch. Even if you write the most brilliant 7-part series, if organic reach is dead, who's going to see it?
And that's where the second pillar comes in. Sequenced thought leader ads, or TLAs.
TLA. Yep, another acronym.
So what is a thought leader ad?
It's a specific ad format on LinkedIn where you can put money behind a post from a personal profile, the CEO's profile, the CTO's, whoever. So it looks like a normal post from a person, but it's sponsored.
But wait, how is that different from just boosting a post? People do that all the time. Hey, this one did well, let's throw $500 at it.
The key word is sequencing. Boosting is spray and pray. You just hope the right people see it. Sequencing is engineering the order. You make sure a target account sees episode 1. Then and only then do they get to see episode 2.
You're forcing the narrative, making sure they don't read the last chapter of the big first.
You're controlling their consumption of the story. And the sources introduced this really critical concept here called the frequency squeeze.
The frequency squeeze. Sounds like a wrestling move.
It sort of is. It's about the optimal dosage. The source suggests you need to saturate a target account with a roughly 30 impressions in a 7-day window.
30 times in 1 week. That sounds incredibly annoying. I feel like I just blocked the person.
You'd think so, but you have to remember how people scroll. An impression just means it loaded on their screen. They might scroll right past it 10 times before they actually stop and read it.
So the squeeze is just about breaking through the noise.
It is. You keep showing it until you hit a 70% penetration threshold with that audience.
And once 70% of them have seen it enough, you move them on to the next episode.
Exactly. You hold them in the problem phase until they get it, then you unlock the solution.
It's like a video game. You have to beat the level to advance.
That's a perfect analogy. You are gamifying the education of your buyer.
Okay, I get the theory. Story arcs plus sequenced ads. But I want to feel the difference. The sources have this really stark before and after. So if I'm a CMO listening, what's my life like in the before state?
The before state is, well, it's where most of us are living. Your executives are posting randomly. Marketing is obsessively tracking things like engagement rate.
Right.
You go to a board meeting, you show a slide with 10,000 impressions, and the CFO just looks at you and asks, "Great. How much revenue did that close?"
And then there's that awful dead silence.
Dead silent, because you can't connect the dots.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, your sales team is just grinding. They call a prospect who says, "Who? What company?" Click.
Marketing is a cost center. Sales is miserable.
Yep. Now, let's flip the switch to the after state. The inevitable state. You're not tracking likes anymore. You're tracking account progression. Every Monday, marketing generates a warm account list.
And this is a literal list you hand to sales.
Yes. Imagine giving your VP of sales a list that says, "Here are 23 accounts. The team at Microsoft has consumed 80% of our CEO's story arc. The VP at Adobe just finished episode 4.
That completely changes the first 10 seconds of that sales call.
It stops being a cold call. The source actually quotes the reaction from prospects. They don't say, "Who are you?" They say, "Oh, hey, I've been seeing your stuff everywhere lately. I was actually meaning to reach out."
I've been seeing you everywhere. That's the psychological trigger right there. It's familiarity.
It turns the sales call from an interruption into a continuation of a story they're already invested in.
Okay, that sounds amazing. Almost. Too good to be true. I'm always a bit skeptical. So let's talk about the proof. The Mutiny case study. I want to see the receipt.
This is the real aha moment of the whole deep dive. Mutiny, they're a B2B personalization company. Very smart, very data-driven. So they ran a super rigorous A/B test on this whole methodology.
Okay, set the scene for me. What was the setup?
They kept everything constant to isolate the one variable. Same creative, same copy, same executives posting, same ad platform. The only difference was the sequencing.
Group A versus Group B.
Exactly. Group A was the cold audience. They just saw the final ask, the demo request ads, without any story beforehand. Standard stuff.
And Group B.
Group B was the warm audience. They went through the story arc first. They were educated on the problem and the mechanism before they were ever asked for a demo.
And what happened to the cost? That's what everyone wants to know.
For the cold audience, the cost per acquisition, or CPA, was about $600.
$600 a lead. Okay, in B2B tech, that's high, but not crazy.
But for the warm audience, the CPA dropped to $200.
Wow. Okay, that's a 66% drop.
It's a 3x efficiency improvement. And just think what that does to a budget. If you have 10 grand to spend, you can get 16 leads the old way, or 50 leads the new way.
For the same money, just by changing the order of the information.
Context is currency.
Yeah.
By the time that warm audience saw the demo ad, they already understood the value. The friction was gone.
And there was another stat in there about engagement too, wasn't there? Between the personal profile and the company page.
Yeah, the engagement multiplier. When Mutiny ran the ads from their CEO's personal profile, engagement rates were consistently between 10 and 20%.
And a normal company page ad gets, what?
0.5% to 1% if you're lucky.
Yeah.
So you've got 10 times the engagement from the human face, and then you get 3 times the conversion efficiency from the sequencing. The math just compounds.
It really does. But, and here's the reality check, this sounds like a logistical nightmare.
It can be.
I mean, if you have 500 target accounts and you have to track which episode each one is on, and if they've hit that 70% threshold, am I supposed to sit there with a giant spreadsheet every morning, manually turning ads on and off?
The source material is brutally honest about this. They call it the manual path. And yes, it involves a lot of spreadsheets.
So what does that day look like if I can't afford a fancy tool?
Well, you start your week downloading impression data from LinkedIn. You have to pivot table it to see which companies have seen which ads. You compare that to your target list. Then you have to say, okay, Delta Airlines has seen episode 1 30 times. Pause that ad for them. Start episode 2.
For every single account on the list?
For every single account. They estimate it takes about 25 to 40 hours a month. It's basically a part-time job just managing the ad plumbing.
That's a recipe for burnout. But the source did mention a tool, right? AMPI.
Right. AMPI is basically an automation layer built specifically for this whole framework.
And what does it automate? Does it write the content?
No, and that's a really important distinction. It automates the distribution, it handles that frequency squeeze, it watches the data, and as soon as an account hits that threshold, AMPI automatically moves them to the next episode. And it generates those warm account lists for sales.
So it takes the 40 hours of spreadsheet hell down to what?
2 or 3 hours a month, they claim.
Oh.
Basically just checking in.
But, and I want to really emphasize this, the expert in the source gives a very specific warning about automation.
Yes. Automation only scales a working strategy.
Which means?
It means if your content is boring, automating it just means you'll annoy people faster and more efficiently. The tool can't fix a bad story. You still have to do the work of writing a compelling story arc.
Don't automate garbage. It's a life lesson.
It really is. Bad fuel in a Ferrari, it's still not going to run well.
Okay, let's get tactical. We promised a Monday morning action plan. So I'm a marketer, I'm inspired, I'm starting from zero. What do I do next week?
The sources lay out a 4-week sprint. Very approachable. Week 1 is the audit.
What am I auditing?
You go to your executive's LinkedIn profile. You look at the last, say, 30 to 50 posts. You're just scavenging for raw materials. Categorize them. Is this a problem post? A solution post? Proof? You usually find you have the pieces, they're just scattered.
I'm not writing from scratch. I'm remixing, finding the greatest hits.
Exactly. Then week 2 is map. You take those pieces you found and you assemble your first 7-episode story arc. Make sure the logic flows. Cut my story, week 3. Week 3 is target. And this is where you need to be disciplined. Don't try to boil the ocean. Pick your top 100 dream accounts, the ones you really want to close, and upload that list to LinkedIn.
Just 100. That seems small.
It's focused. You want to prove the model. If you pick 10,000 accounts, you'll dilute your budget so much you'll never achieve that frequency squeeze.
Depth over breadth.
Got it.
Yeah.
And at week 4.
Launch. You turn on episode 1. You set your frequency caps and you start watching the data.
Now, what if I'm listening and thinking, hey, I already run thought leader ads. I'm ahead of this. The source have a simple diagnostic question for you. Ask yourself, do you know exactly which of your accounts have seen which piece of content and in what order?
And if the answer is, no, I just see the total impression count.
You aren't sequencing.
Right.
You're just running ads. You're getting some visibility, sure, but you're not building a narrative in the buyer's brain. You're still just interrupting them.
That's a huge distinction. It's the difference between a commercial break and a TV show.
Perfectly put. And this gets to the bigger picture. Why go through all this trouble?
Yeah, let's zoom out. What does this look like 6 months from now if I commit?
The source describes the compound effect. Months 1 and 2, you're just building the foundation. You might not see a huge flood of leads. You're warming up the engine.
So don't panic in month 1.
Do not panic. By months 3 and 4, recognition starts to build. Your sales team will start telling you the calls are getting easier. Response rates on emails tick up.
And by month 5?
By month 5, your executive becomes a known voice in your industry. The system starts to run itself. New accounts enter the sequence, they get processed, and they pop out the other end ready for a conversation.
It becomes infrastructure, an asset.
It does. And this gets to the core philosophy of this whole thing. B2B buyers. They don't necessarily buy from the company with the absolute best content.
They don't.
No. They buy from the name they recognize.
Familiarity breeds trust, and trust drives revenue. But to get recognition, you need repetition. And you can't rely on the organic algorithm for that anymore. You have to manufacture it.
That is a tough pill to swallow for the content perfectionists out there.
It is. The world is just too noisy. They have to build the road to your own door.
Build the road. I like that.
The source leaves us with one final challenge. It says you have a choice. You can keep playing the lottery posting and praying for a viral hit, or you can go build something that compounds. Go build something that compounds, that really resonates. Most marketing is ephemeral. An event happens, it's gone. This is about building a permanent layer of influence.
Exactly. Every dollar you spend on this sequencing adds to the cumulative knowledge of your market. It educates. It stays there.
So to recap the journey, we started with the pain of being invisible. We looked at the double bind of broken reach. We unpacked the solution, story arcs plus sequenced thought leader ads.
We saw the proof with Mutiny cutting their cost per lead by 66%. And we looked at the reality of either doing the spreadsheet work or looking at automation.
And we've got a plan for Monday morning. Audit, map, target, launch.
It's a shift from posting to programming. You're programming the market's understanding of your value.
I love that. Well, that brings us to the end of this deep dive into the invisible to inevitable finale, a fascinating look at how B2B influence is changing.
It really is. The big takeaway is don't leave your reputation to chance.
Absolutely.
Wow.
So for you listening, here's your homework. Sometime this week, open up your company's LinkedIn feed, look at it like a stranger, and ask yourself, do I see a story here? Or do I just see a bunch of noise?
And if you see noise,
Yeah.
well, you know what to do.
Go build something that compounds. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll catch you on the next one.